Alright, how's everybody doing? Doing good, I hope. Oh, can't you see how lovely this is? I finally found a way to make Hyprland work for me, or just Wayland in general, I mean. I found a way to make it work. And this stream is proof. Now, I don't know exactly how I got it to work. I don't remember some of it, but I did get it to work on NVIDIA. So, it's definitely going to be interesting. For sure. It's an interesting ride. Everyone knows I'm used to being on Awesome. But now we're over here on Wayland. We're over here with the Waybar. Look at this Waybar, dude. Isn't that cool? It's pretty much the same bar, but I just, I don't know. Alright, let's take a look. I can't see because of the heart. Did you rice your Discord or you don't have it? No, I didn't rice my Discord. No, I riced, Hyprland. Riced, well, not only Hyprland, but also Waybar. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Glad you could make it with us. You're not on Hyprland yet? Yeah, so Hyprland is one of those things that it is I don't want to say it's a challenge, because like a lot of it is not that hard to set up, but it, like, especially if you're on NVIDIA, I can't stress how difficult that is with NVIDIA. Let's turn that music down just a little bit. There we go. But yeah, I would say it's, I'm trying to figure out how to compare it, because I don't want to compare it to installing Arch, but I also don't want to compare it to installing Awesome, because with Awesome, it's pretty simple to set up. Like, there's hardly anything you have to do to it. And then with Arch, it's like one of those things where you're building everything yourself. And I feel like Hyprland is a mix of that, where like a lot of it is easy to set up, but then there's some parts that's like, it's kind of a DIY attitude you have to have with it. But overall, my experience is not bad. In fact, I like it very much. There's things that are just nice little perks of quality of life, I guess, that I have grown accustomed to now. And I kind of don't want to go back to anything. I kind of want to stick it here, but like, I understand how much of a struggle Wayland can be, because I recently, like within the last week, have made a video about why I didn't go to Wayland to begin with. And I didn't go to it because of like 3 reasons. One reason was because of the whole OBS thing, which I got that sorted out. And I think it had to do with between my kernels and portals. I had to configure those in such a way that I got it to work. The other thing was with Discord. That one is not so much of a reason that I really cared about. But then, let's see, I'm trying to think of that last reason that I had. Oh yeah, Wine. Wine wasn't working properly. I will say that Wine is working. It works a little differently than it used to, but it does work good now. I don't have any issues with it. So yeah, those are some things to keep in mind, that like, okay, let me read this real quick. Yes, Wine is necessary for me. Yeah, it was, I would say it's necessary for me as well. I have like one application that runs under Wine, and I really need that to work. And so it was important for me as well. It was one of the reasons why I didn't want to move off of X11. But it seems to me that the app works just fine under Wayland. I think it was just because I was on GNOME at the time. Here's my story about that. So I was on Debian 12. I was on Bookworm, and I was using Wayland and GNOME at the time. And those two things alone are a bad mix of things, because it's old, and a lot of people have issues with GNOME. Like, I like GNOME, for example, but other people have like issues with it. So it's just a matter of what you prefer. But I'm trying to figure out how to put this, because it was like it worked under Wine. Like, Wine worked fine for the most part, but there were certain elements that I couldn't click and drag and drop. So like, I would try to click on something to drag it, and it would not let me drag the thing that I wanted to drag. And so that was one of the reasons why I said I didn't think I was ready for Wayland yet, was because it just wasn't working right. And I think it may have something to do with Mutter. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Did you try X Wayland at the time for compatibility issues? I don't know enough about X Wayland. I know that it's a... Okay, so the short answer is no. No, I did not try that. And the reason I didn't try that was because I didn't know that was a thing that existed at the time. And if I had known about it, I would have probably tried it out, seen if it was good, and see if it would work for me. And I don't know. Like, I find where it's helpful if you have like a layer to like, I guess, combat Wayland. It's good for that. Cool stuff. Thanks. Glad you're here with us today. Hope you're doing well. It's not that good anyway, X Wayland. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know enough about it at the time. I don't even know the first thing about like getting it to work. I didn't even know it was a thing. So that's like the best way I can answer that. But yeah, let's, I don't know if you guys want to see what I've got going on here. I've got Kava both as a window and as a module on Waybar. I've got a, if you take a look at the primary window, or what they call the master window, you'll see that the border is moving. That, to me, is a really cool feature that I just found out about it yesterday. And I think it was because I was watching a Linux cast video, and he was talking about how you can make the bar do this, or not the bar, but make the border move. And I'm like, hey, I got a great idea. Let's take my rainbow colors from my background and let's make it into a border. And wouldn't you know, this thing, it's like, wow. It's like night and day. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know. I'm pretty excited for Hyprland. Like, everyone knows I was on Awesome. And I liked Awesome. I still like Awesome. If I'm on X11. I have tried Sway before. I did not like Sway. But Sway is one of those things where, like, if I had to live in it, I could live in it. I don't want to, though. It to me, it's just not as... I don't know. I guess it's just not as customizable, because one of the things... Let's just go ahead and go into the code real quick. So, one of the things that I really wanted... And I'll go back to the top in a second, but I want to show you what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the layouts. There's a specific layout that I'm looking for. I did not know I could do this at first, but I set the layout to master instead of dwindle. One thing I noticed with dwindle is that I don't see where it is dynamic at all. People say that it like this is a dynamic compositor. I don't see the dynamic property about using dwindle as a layout, because you have to hover over whatever you want, like wherever you want the window to be placed. You have to hover over it, and I didn't like that. And one of the cool things that I got Awesome to do was I got Awesome to be centered, meaning that it would place your master window in the center, and it would place everything else on the sides. And one thing I will say about placing everything on the sides is that it does a better job when it comes to Genie. Now it cuts off some of Genie to where I can't see the text, but it does a good job of making sure that everything's in its layout. Yeah, so dwindle, let me figure out how I can do this for you. So dwindle, let's do, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this, because I've got all different kinds of windows open at the moment. No worries. Okay. So let's say I want to do dwindle. Oh, that just messed with everything. Okay, but yeah, this is dwindle. So dwindle is like, it'll take your master and it will, oh yeah, isn't that the beauty of this too? It's like I can make an update to it, save the file, and it automatically updates it. But like, see, it takes this master window and it puts it on the left. And then it takes like your secondary and I guess it places it on the bottom. I didn't know it would do that. But like, it does that. And then it places like the third smallest, or the third biggest, and then the fourth biggest, and then the fifth biggest. And it keeps dwindling. It like goes, think of like the Debian logo. The Debian logo does this like circular effect. And that's what dwindle does. That's like the best way I can explain it. So I'm going to change that back to master. Let's go back. There we go. And now we're back. Is it automatic? You can't move? Oh yeah, you can move the tiles. In fact, let me save it. Or let me do the dwindle real quick. So what you can do is I've got it set up to where you can hold your super key and then click on whatever it is you want to drag to. And let's say we want to drag it down here, we could drag it down there. Like, you can absolutely drag this to wherever you want to. That's not the issue. The issue is like if you, for example, let's go ahead and pull up a terminal, right? So we pull up the terminal, and then let's say I'm in the middle here. Okay, that one goes left. But if I'm over here and I do it again, it's going to put it in this right section. If I have my mouse over here, it's going to put it in the left section. So really, you've got, let's see, kind of like i3. Yeah, I think I remember Vaxry talking about how it was a lot like i3 because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his inspiration for Hyprland, some of it came from i3 because that's what he first worked in. And that's what's different about me and him, is that I don't know as much about i3, but I know a lot about Awesome WM. He knows a lot more about i3, not so much Awesome WM. But yeah, basically you stick your mouse wherever you want to and you pull it up. I don't really like it. I like for it to be more dynamic than that, and that's what Master gives me. Yeah, I think it's just more of a preference, really. So let's go ahead and close out of all of these windows here. And I think that the dynamic thing is the focus split. I mean, maybe it could be. I didn't think about it that way. Because, yeah, I guess it could be. But yeah, let's go ahead and change this back to master. And I'll show you what I see. I keep hitting enter instead of save. But yeah, this is what I like about it. I like, if I can tile things correctly here. There we go. I had to set up my own keybinds just to move around the windows like I want them to. But yeah, I think I forgot what I was saying. I know I was talking about the master stuff. One of the things I like is I like having my window in the center and then having everything else just where it's at. So to give you a demonstration of what that's like, I don't even have to place the mouse anywhere. But whenever you have two windows open, it opens like it's supposed to. And then that third window is where it opens that. And I'm going to put my cursor over here because I want to test something. I want to test something that I hadn't thought about. Okay, so no matter what, it's going to stick that window over there. So that's a little more dynamic for me. And then just place another one. And you're only going to be able to see 5 windows at the time. So however many other windows you've got, it's going to hide itself behind everything else. Yeah, so let's go ahead and close out of all of that. And what do I want to do now? I think let me go over everything that's in Hyprland as of right now that I've got going on. So the auto-generated, there's a message that pops up whenever you first have a config file. And I set that to, or I removed the line so that way I could remove the warning. Because the warning was, this is a default configuration and whatnot. And I just pretty much commented that out so I didn't have to look at that. There is something interesting here. Not that you would need to, because I don't feel a need to. I didn't feel a need to with Awesome WM, though I started doing it near the end. You can create files separately and link them to the file like this. And it would be like the source equals ~.config/hyper/mycolors.com would be an example. My monitors. So one thing that's different is that you need to set up your monitors through Hyprland. And the way that you do that is I had to look through A-Render, which is like the graphical version of X-Render. I looked to see what my monitors were. I got an HDMI A2 and a DVI D1. And I had to set these up manually. Yes, good old A-Render. I love it because it's like something I can actually see, right? Something I can actually configure in front of me. But I can't use A-Render in Wayland. And so the way that they go about this is that this is within your configuration file, that you set your dimensions, then you set your refresh rate, and then you set your width and height as far as where the window is going to be placed, or where your monitor is going to be placed. And then you set, I can't remember what this one does. Oh, that's going to bug me now. I can't remember what the one does. But that's going to be important. But like, could be the, no, it's not the refresh rate. I already said the refresh rate. But yeah, anyways, so what I was talking about with the dimensions is I've got this monitor as like my second monitor. And I set it to like 1920 because that's the end of my first monitor, and the second monitor begins at 1920. I think you can make a script to connect your monitors. I'm pretty sure you could. I don't think there's anything going against that. Yeah, I think you could as well. At this point, you can make a script out of anything, really, if you try hard enough. Let's see. Going to the next one. You can set programs that you use here. My terminal is Kitty. My file manager is Thunar, and my menu is Rofi. Now, here's the thing about Rofi. A lot of people complained because the regular Rofi would not work in Wayland. So, first things first, I got OG Rofi to work on Wayland. I'm not using OG Rofi at the moment. I am using a Rofi Wayland compatible version. It's like from the AUR or something like that. The name of the person from GitHub starts with a L, but it's their package. It's their package that makes it Wayland compatible. So I just use Rofi for my menu. I use it for my window switcher as well. And I used to use it for my power menu, but my power menu is not compatible with it's not compatible with Wayland. So let me check something real quick. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so I ended up using wlogout for that. Yeah, that's, I don't know. I like wlogout. I mean, to me it's not as good as Rofi, but I mean it's better than nothing. I use Rofi. It's simple and you can make a lot of things with it. Yeah, I would agree. I think it is highly customizable as well. I, in fact, I've got 2 videos on Rofi. One of them is just like an overview of the application, and then one of them was where I went over my current configuration. So, like, this is my current configuration, for example. But, like, I got it at one point to work to where it would, like, have different colors. If you were to, like, go up and down on this, it would, like, show up as a different color. But we'll go ahead and exit out of that. I mean, to me, like, it may not be as fancy as other people's configurations, but it's a configuration that I like. So, like, it works for me. And I got some things to auto start. So, some of the things I got to auto start, you definitely want to have something for wallpapers. I think the most frustrating thing that has come out of Hyprland thus far is not having a more native way to install wallpapers. In Hyprland, you have to have another, I don't know if you'd call it a plugin. I don't think I'd call it a plugin. You have to have another package just to be able to set the wallpaper. And I guess I should have pulled that up in the beginning. But, like, let me see if I can pull it up now. Yeah, it would be under hyperpaper.com. Yeah, so going back into let's see, nitrogen. I don't think nitrogen works. That being said, I've never tried it. that would be something that you would have to try, and then you could always just let me know if it works or whatever, and then I can pass that information on to other people. I don't think it works though, because of the way that they've set it. But like with Hyperpaper, you have to set a preload, and the preload is like your wallpaper. So your wallpaper has to preload before it can be applied, according to Hyperpaper. And then you have to set your wallpaper for each and every monitor that you have. And you have to set it to the file path that you set for preload. And there is a splash that happens over your wallpaper. And if you don't want that, then you set it to false. Now, the first time I ever saw this splash, I'll go ahead and warn you before I tell you what it says. It changes every single time. You're not going to get the same splash every time. But my splash, the first time I ever saw it, was 2 trailer park girls go around the outside. And I started thinking to myself, what in fresh hell have I gotten myself into? I just, like, it was so surprising to me that you would have a splash that says that. But, I mean, it says it. And it has other little sayings too. Like, there's nothing against that. But yeah, if you don't want the splash, turn it off. I don't want the splash. I'm not interested in it. But that's how you would set up a wallpaper. And then you would just set up Hyperpaper every time in your auto start. You also want to start Waybar. I also start nm-applet, and then I also start my VPN. The other thing that you would want to do is you would want to set up your poll kit. Poll kits are necessary for things like if you're in OBS and you want to use your virtual camera, you would need a poll kit so that way you can type in a password to give it the okay to let you do the virtual camera. So it's things that you definitely need for that. It's like a X init RC. Yes, it is. It's definitely like that. I think the biggest difference is you can combine certain execs, or not certain execs. You can combine a bunch of them. I've got mine separated just because of different things that they do. But yeah, you definitely want that poll kit, like I was saying. Another thing that it does is that every time I log out and log back in, it always wants to set my default audio sync to 40%. And with this command, I've got it to where it sets it back to 100%. And then I've also got QPW Graph and Genie and Firefox that gets executed. And then Discord. And Discord, it acts a little funky if you don't have this line here. I've noticed that without putting this line, there are certain elements that you start to notice go missing temporarily, and then they come back. And I don't know about you, but I want a functioning Discord. I don't want things to like disappear on me randomly. Yeah, you gotta disable the GPU on that. I don't know why that works, but it does. Like I tried this without using disabled GPU, but I had to have it because it wouldn't work otherwise. But like you have to set the enable features to use Ozone Platform. Ozone Platform would be Wayland, and then you disable the GPU. I guess there's bugs with the GPU. I don't know what's going on with that mess. But yeah, it's a little buggy. And I tried Vesktop. Someone in my comments section recommended that I try Vesktop. And I tried Vesktop. Vesktop worked beautifully. I couldn't use it because it started glitching out on me. And when I was going to use screen share and all that stuff, it wouldn't even give me a box to let me know like what screen I wanted to use. And I guess part of that was due to the fact that at the time it wasn't wanting to load up the screen capture and the window capture properly. And I think that, again, like I said earlier, I think that had to do with my kernel, and I think it had to deal with the what's that thing called? Like the XDG display or something like that? I think, or the portals. Yeah, that's what it is, the portals. Yeah, it is Hyprland. I mean, I'm not saying that Hyprland is perfect by any means. In fact, I was very open to the fact of using Hyprland. I saw what other people were doing, and I said I wanted that. But at the time, I couldn't make it work because I didn't know how to make it work correctly. And once I figured out how to solve a few of my issues, you know, now that I knew what was going on, I was able to use it like I wanted to. And it's like, I really like using it, you know. So, environment variables. I left that alone. Although I did try one environment variable, and I didn't see where it made a difference, so I took it out. Which leads me more to believe that it was something with my kernel and with my portals. Look and feel. Gaps in and gaps out. So this would be the equivalent of like useless gaps in Awesome WM. And I set the gaps to 5. 5 was a good number for me, I noticed. I could go a little bit further if I wanted to, but like 10 is like the absolute most I'll ever go for gaps. I think anything more than 10 is excessive. I'm not going to say it's a waste of space, because like you do you, but it is a little much. Really, you script your gaps. Nice. Do you do anything different to them? Like I like to know what it is that you do in your scripts that's different. Let's see. Border size. Border size, I keep it 2. I just like having my borders. I like having them there, but I like a little bulkiness, but not too much bulkiness. So I thought 2 was a good number, because like 1 is just it's like the difference between a thin strip of steak and like a T-bone steak. Like it's that much of a difference, you know. Right here, this cold.active border. This is my rainbow border. So you can specify your colors. You do it through RGBA. and you set your HTML color here, and then you set your transparency after it. And I set up 6 colors, and I set it at a 45-degree angle, so that way my red color would be at the top left and the purple would be at the bottom right. I just changed the space between the tiles with a keybind. Gotcha. Yeah, because there is a way in Awesome that you can change the padding is what they call it. Like if you didn't want to go through, like if you wanted to be more specific about your gaps, you could not use, or you could go without using your useless gaps in your theme and just go with your padding in the rc.lua file and set that padding to whatever it is that you want to set, like whatever you want to set it to. The inactive border I set to white, just because my border for my Waybar, I keep wanting to call it a Waybar, but the color for my Waybar is white as well, so I wanted to keep it that way. You don't need a compositor on Wayland? It's integrated? Yes, it is integrated. What Hyprland is known as is that it is known as a dynamic compositor. That's what Vaxry calls it on the website. And that's all I've ever heard it, because people are like, oh yeah, it's a window manager, and then you say that to someone like Vaxry or something like that, and you get no it's not a window manager, it's a compositor. And people are like, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. And it's like, no, I want to correct you on this. It is a compositor. So like, I want to make sure that I get it right the first time. But yes, they do call this a dynamic compositor, even though it has window managing capabilities. Yeah, so I'll definitely go in more depth about your compositor, because you've got things like rounded borders, for example, that you could do. That's like the only real thing that I can think about with compositors. But yeah, resize on border, that's set to true, so that way I can resize by clicking and dragging. I can do it on the borders, or I can do it on the gaps. And you'll notice you get like an icon here that allows you to do that. Allow tearing? No, we do not want tearing. We do not have tearing in this household. I make sure that every chance I get, I take out the tearing. This right here allows me to not have to set this in the Xorg configuration, which Xorg is basically X11. So like, I wouldn't need to do that to begin with. Basically, if you were to set tear free in X11, you would have to do it with your xorg.com. And here you just set that in the Hyprland configuration. So there, like, if you have any tearing, you set it to false. And then see here earlier, we were talking about the layout. I had switched it to master from dwindle. Yes, X11 is definitely known for tearing. I had to go in there when I had, because I've got like a built-in AMD GPU, and then I have an NVIDIA graphics card that is a dedicated graphics card. And the AMD graphics card, I had to go into the settings, and I've done a video on this before where I got rid of screen tearing for X11. And with NVIDIA, what you do is that you use NVIDIA-settings, and you go into your configuration for your monitors, and there's like 2 settings that you need to set, and then you're good to go from screen tearing there. Because I did start to notice a little screen tearing with NVIDIA, and all I had to do was go into NVIDIA settings and deal with that. So it's a completely different ballgame. But right now, I'm using an NVIDIA graphics card, and I got everything to work fine with Wayland. I haven't had any issues lately, and that's a key word, because I did have issues originally, but that was just because I did not set up NVIDIA correctly, and now that I've set it up correctly, things are working like they're supposed to. I even had a problem where I had switched from NVIDIA to AMD, and I thought to myself that I had borked my operating system in some way. But it turns out all I had to do was just delete my xorg.conf and everything was fine. So, like, you know, it's just one of those things. It could be scary for sure. Oh yeah, this decoration here. This is where you set your variables for like decoration. So like I was mentioning rounded borders earlier. This is where you would set it. You'd set your rounding. I set mine equal to 20. A lot of people set theirs to 10. I'm very specific about my rounded borders. I want mine at 20. I just like the way that it looks aesthetically. And you know, you were talking about earlier about compositors. So this allows you to change the transparency of focused and unfocused windows. All right, so the active opacity is at 1, and the inactive opacity I set to 0.9. Really, you like 6 for rounding? I mean, listen, no judgment whatsoever. Like, at least you use rounded corners, okay? There's some people in this world who still do not use rounded corners. And it's like, I want to take them to the nearest Goodwill and just like, like go shopping for them or something, you know? Of course I kid, okay? It's not that bad if you don't use rounded borders or rounded corners. It's not that bad. I just, you know. But yeah, when it comes to the opacity, right now you see that it's active, so there is no transparency. If I were to go off of this page, now you see my background, and that's dealing with your compositor stuff. You could have a drop shadow if you wanted to. I personally don't see the need in a drop shadow, so I set it to false. Blur. You could also do blur, which I've also set to false. So those are some of the, like, what you would call compositing is what they call decorations. And then animations. Animations is it's a great thing to have. Yeah, no need for PyCom anymore. Definitely no need for PyCom, because you've got it all here. Like, they've even got animations, and you set like your Bezier, I think is how you pronounce it, or Bezier. I think it's Bezier. Yeah, and I set mine to linear, but like you can go to this, or maybe it was on this link here. But if you go to this link here, there should be like another link that takes you to somewhere where you can figure out what your Bezier or your Bezier should be. But I set mine to linear because I wanted mine to like go continuously. So Windows. My Windows is set for it's set to 1 because I want it to be activated, and that's how you activate it. It's either 0 or 1. And then I set this to 5. Yeah, so I set this to 5, which is like, I think it's either seconds or milliseconds, or it's in some kind of format. And I set the window to default, meaning I don't want my Bezier, I don't want my Bezier applied to it. And then my effect, and my effect is slide, because I like having sliding windows. Border is the same thing. I set it to enabled, set it to like 5 seconds. I think it's seconds. And then I set it to default for the Bezier. The next animation is border angle, and that's how this is running colors all over the place. If you've noticed this entire time, the border has been changing colors. And I mean, it's not really changing colors, but it's like shifting the colors almost. It's like it's having a race with the other colors. And the way that I do that is with border angle. And I've had to tweak this one a little bit. So I set it 1 to enable. I set 20 because I wanted it to mimic like once every second. That's what I was trying to go for. And my Bezier is what I definitely wanted to apply to this. I wanted to apply that because like I said, I wanted that linear effect, and I set it to loop so it doesn't stop moving. The workspaces animation, set it to 1, set it to 5, defaults, and I let it slide as well. So yeah, those are your animations. I set mine to true, obviously. If we go down here, there's like different settings. You've got your dwindle settings, and then you've got master. I didn't play around too much with dwindle, but I think pseudo tile might have something to do with how the windows are being placed when you're on dwindle. Don't quote me on that, but I think it definitely has something to do with that. Preserve split. They said you probably want this. I don't exactly know what it does right off, just because I haven't played with dwindle enough. I played with the master because, like I said before, I like having the center. I like having center master. Thank you for the subscription. It's very much appreciated. So like I said, with master, impact is basically how big you want your main, like your master window. And my master window, I wanted it to be half the screen. So you would set it to 0.5 because 1 is like the entire screen. New as master. This is where like every new window that you get becomes the master now. And I set that to true. Orientation equals center. So the orientation of it is like it centers it every chance it gets, is what we want it to do by default. And to always center master, you don't really want to do that, or I don't want to do that rather. This will always make it at 0.5. And the problem is, I don't always want this window at 0.5. The only time I want this window at 0.5 is if I have 3 or more windows open. So, yeah, that's your guide for dwindle versus master. It's all dependent upon what you want to do with it, really. I think a lot of people would gravitate towards dwindle to some degree. People who use master by default, if they don't use that center as the orientation, that's your regular tiling. I didn't like the regular tiling when I first was when I was first using Awesome WM, and I wanted something different. And near the end of my run with Awesome WM, I finally got it to where you can do that, to where I can have my center layout like I want it. What happens if you activate always center? Well, let's give it a shot. So I just saved my settings, and that's what happened. So every time you have one window open, it automatically makes this like it's not spread out. Yeah. So, like, for example, if you were to do another window, like, it's always going to be center. Oh, it always stays at 0.5? Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what it does. So, like, again, I wouldn't do that, but you can do that. I really like that about Hyprland. I like how you can make a setting change, and then it just changes it automatically. Misk. Misk was a interesting variable to set. This by default, you can force default wallpaper. You either set it to 0 or 1 to disable the anime mascot wallpapers. So 1 would be enable, 0 would be disable. I do not want to force the default wallpaper. Yeah, there is a anime wallpaper that shows up by default, that the only way to get rid of it is to use these settings. And if you set disable Hyprland logo to true, it disables the random Hyprland logo / anime girl background. So, like, I mean, if you wanted to see it, I can show you what it looks like. Again, it's not really my cup of tea, but I can show it to you if you're interested in it. How it's like a little demo for animated wallpapers. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, if we scroll down, forget the how. It's like a little demo for animated wallpapers. Yeah, pretty much. Let me just, I'll show you what this does. Hopefully it won't mess with my wallpaper as it is currently. So I save that. Oh, you're not going to be able to see it. Oh, snap. You can't see it because of my wallpaper. I'd have to kill Hyperpaper. And killing Hyperpaper is something I definitely don't want to do, because I have found that it is tricky to get it working again, like once I kill it, because I can do Hyperpaper and and it still keeps it in the terminal. So whenever I exit the terminal, then it kills my wallpaper, and I don't want to do that. So that's interesting. You can cover it up and you can set it, but like, yeah, you definitely don't want to break it. Yeah. The input I left as it was. It looks fine to me. I use the US. Everything looks fine to me with the input. You normally don't have to do anything with it. Gestures is dealing with if you're on a laptop and you're using a touch mouse, or even just, I mean, you can use a touch mouse. Like Logitech has a keyboard that has like a touch mouse. You could use one of those and use the gestures off of it, but it works off of those gestures to swipe between the workspaces. And in Hyprland, they are called workspaces. They're not called tags like they are in Awesome WM. The device, I left the device as it was. I'm not even sure how you would configure that. But workspace bindings. Okay. So this is one thing that is going to mess you up when you come to Hyprland. And that is how workspaces work. So I'll get into this a little bit more when we get into the styling of the Waybar. But what you need to do, because by default on Awesome WM, it allows you to have separate workspaces, meaning that you get 10 workspaces on one monitor and you get 10 workspaces on another. Okay, but in Hyprland, if you don't specify your workplaces for specific monitors, then you're not going to get any workspaces. I say that, but I think it just doesn't follow the traditional rules of it. Like if you're looking, like let me give you an example of how you would set up workspaces for this. So what I did was for workspaces 1 through 5, I set it for this HDMI A2. And for workspaces 6 through 10, I would set it for this DP-2. And now that I think about it, how is it working if I set this up here? I set that to DVI D1. But then down here, that's DP2. How's that been working? Well, obviously we need to make that change. So let me just make that change real quick. I'm hoping to get a new monitor actually at some point. Because right now I've got like a dual monitor setup, but my other monitor does not match my good monitor, and I'd like one to match it. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't work traditionally in terms of workspaces. So you would need to dedicate some workspaces to a specific monitor. And so, like I said, I gave 1 through 5 for the workspaces on HDMI A2. And then for DVI D1, I gave the workspaces 6 through 10 for those. And you could give more if you wanted to. But I don't see a need in having more than that. I might eventually get to a point, but I want to be able to access my workspaces through key bindings. So that's why I gave it 10 for now, because it works with 1 through 10 for key bindings. And speaking of key bindings, we set a variable called $main_mod that's equal to super, as in the super key. And so here's something that I think will be very useful. Let's see, you've never used more than 5 workspaces? Yeah, that's how a lot of people are. It depends on your workflow, really. But let me show you something that's like really cool about the key bindings. I use a program called YAD. And I found out about YAD because of DistroTube. I was watching one of his videos recently where he was talking about how like you could do like Awesome WM and have a key binding list, because by default you can do a key binding list for Awesome WM, like it does it automatically. And in Hyprland, I got it to where I can do a key binding list. So let me show you how that works in a second. Like so my mod key, which is the super key, plus S will get me YAD. And I set the title, although I don't think I need to set a title here. Yeah, at this point, I don't think I need to set a title. We'll check that out in a second. But I created myself a HTML file. And I set it to be in .config/hyper/keybindings.html. And I set it to where it only has one button, where that button is the OK button. So this is my key bindings list. I centered everything, made sure it had like the background color that I wanted, set the font that I wanted, and then I gave the whole table a border. And so I made this table, giving it these titles here, like general, move windows, switch workspaces. And then it, like, I've got like a table or a section of table. I don't remember specifically what TD means. I know that, like, I know what I'm talking about, but I just don't remember what the names are for like TR and TD and stuff like that, because my brain's kind of been going all over the place this weekend. But yeah, you can set the style. You can set it for like color, your text align, your vertical align, and you set it for all these. And I'll just go ahead and show you what that looks like now. So this is what my key bindings looks like at the moment. So Super S for the list of key bindings, Super Return for terminal, Super D for application menu, Super W for logout menu, Alt Tab for the Windows switcher, which I made a typo in that. I need to fix that real quick. Super F for Thunar, Super Print Screen for screenshot, Super Space toggle floating, Super Q kill window, Super R to restart Waybar, and Super Shift Q to exit Hyprland. And then you've got move windows. You can move them left, right, up, and down, or you can left click on it. You know, you switch your workspaces. You can move the focus. You can resize windows, and you can move windows to certain workspaces. Yeah, I thought it was clean as well. I really liked what I was doing with it, and so I kind of went with it. One thing I will tell you about screenshots. Flame Shot does not work for Wayland at the moment, that I know of. I know this because I tried it, and I could not get Flame Shot to work with Wayland. So I had to use Grim. And while it's not the most ideal, I set up the keybind to where it'll take a screenshot of the desktop, but then it'll open up Thunar and show me the file location whenever I take the screenshot. So let me go ahead and title that Windows switcher. And then we'll go back to our Hyprland. But as you can see here, I set, like, just like in this here, you can see all the work that I've done here to add everything together. Like, this is my screenshot keybind at the moment, just to give you an idea. And for Waybar, what I did was I got tired of going into the terminal and killing Waybar and then doing it again. So what I did was I created a command that would kill Waybar and it would bring it back up. And so it does it every time I hit Super R. You don't use a lot of Super Shift for now. Super Shift. Let me see. Okay. It is moving the active window to a workspace. That is what I'm using Super Shift for. So anytime I want to move a window, which I use it all the time, by the way, you can move it with Super Shift and then whatever workspace you want to go to between 1 and 0 on your keyboard. It's no different than like using Super 1 to go to workspace 1, for example, and all that good stuff. But yeah, these are all the key bindings here. Oh yeah, one thing that I would recommend, I would recommend this for both Hyprland and Waybar, is to set your mouse up and your mouse down to scroll through the workspaces. I think it's already done by default in Hyprland, but you have to do it. You have to set it up in your config.json, I believe, for your Waybar. And so the last thing that we've come to with our Hyprland configuration is I've set some window rules. And the window rules goes as follows. So like I use something called MPV. Yep, definitely very practical. So I use something called MPV, that is my media player. And I want it to float, I want it to be centered, and I want a specific size for it. And the size that I give it is 1280 by 720. And one thing that you can do is, one of the key bindings that I have is Super Space, and that toggles floating. Yeah, I used to be a VLC person, and I started hearing more and more about MPV, and I decided to give it a shot. And I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. Like, I was able to access music through the terminal, and like it was playing straight through the terminal. And on top of that, it gives you such a minimal look whenever you're playing videos. And I really enjoyed that about MPV. VLC is something I would look towards recommending to users who want something more graphical, and to users who are using Windows. I would recommend VLC to them. Simply because, especially in Windows, you're not really working as much in the terminal as most people are. So I definitely would not recommend MPV to those people. But I mean, it's there if you want to use it, you know. But yeah, that YAD that I was showing you earlier, in order to get the key bindings list. So what I did was, and I'm going to make a video on this eventually, because I really want to show people how to use something like YAD to be able to show information like they do. So what I did was I set the float and center for YAD, and then I did size 1280 by 750, and I did 750 for that one, so that way I could not have a scroll bar, because I didn't want a scroll bar. I wanted to see the entire thing. Yeah, I don't like title bars. The exception was like today, I decided to have like this window name here for the sake of aesthetics, but I don't like having title bars on my windows. You can technically get title bars. That is known as a official plugin, which you would have to install Hyper. I think it's PM or WM or something like that. I think it's PM. I don't know. It's one of the two. But like, you can get plugins for it, and I just don't really have any use for them. But I do find value in like having a window name up here sometimes. I think it can be useful. But if nothing else, like I said, it's just for aesthetics. But yeah, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's scroll up to my config file for Waybar, because as you can see, Hyprland does not have a very big configuration file. I think that was like, it's less than 300 codes. It's definitely less than 300 codes, really? Okay. No, it's less than 300 lines is what I meant to say. No scroll bars, no borders, no title bars, aesthetic. Yeah, definitely. Definitely the aesthetic. I mean, although I like my borders. Don't get me wrong, I love my borders. But, yeah, so here's the thing about JSON. I hate JSON files. Okay? I want everyone to know that. And I felt like I had to be expressive in that way. But I really don't like them. I like how customizable they are, though. I do find that there is a use for JSON. I think I heard the Linux cast one time say I'd rather work with YAML than JSON. And despite how much I don't like JSON, I'd still work with JSON. I'm more familiar with it. Like, it's one of those bastardized languages. But I don't know, if I had to work with that in Haskell, yeah, I'd work with JSON. Like, I've seen Haskell. I've never personally worked with Haskell. I don't have an interest in it. So, you know, it's just one of those things. But yeah, I commented out some things. Like, I commented out layer because it puts it on top by default, so I don't need to do anything. Or, well, for position. And then it sets the layer to top by position. Yes, this is for the Waybar now. We're on the Waybar. This is your config.jsonc for Waybar. And there's two files that you get for Waybar. You've got your config.jsonc and your style.css. The height, I let it set its own height because I recognize that, like, no matter how big I made the font, it's only going to make the bar bigger. So I just let it go. And also let the width go as it was. I don't have any spacing between the modules. I didn't want spacing because I wanted this aesthetic. I wanted it to, like, be this rounded thing. Yeah, I just prefer not to have it. The margins I set to 5. And again, that's your border. Or not your border. That's your gaps. Like, pretty much your margins can be considered gaps. And I set mine to 5 for that. And Waybar, just to be clear, Polybar does not work as of right now that I know of for Wayland. And so Waybar is pretty much going to be your best bet when it comes to working with something. But then you've got, like, this left section, or modules left. And I've got some custom widgets. So, like, I've got my weather widget up here. I've got my YouTube widget up here. And then my CPU, my memory, my disk space. And in the center, I've got like a app icon, so that way I can access my apps. Yeah, Polybar is stuck at 11, or X11 rather. Yeah, I would agree. There's no telling how long it'll take for them to catch up. And like one day, here's the thing about Awesome. What I used to think about Awesome is like, I was hoping for like that one day where like they would say, oh, we're on Wayland. And then I could just try them on Wayland and not have to go to anything. But like, after being on Hyprland, I don't necessarily want to go back to Awesome, because my experience is turning out to be better and better every day. And it's all these little things that like make a difference to me. But I still think the Awesome WM is a great window manager. And it's something I would definitely recommend, especially if you're on X11. Number one recommended from me. But yeah, Module Center. I've got like app icon, and then I've got my workspaces. So here's the thing about workspaces. I had to do this thing with the pellets, and I originally wanted to do it with the Pac-Man ghosts, like I did with Awesome WM, because I got it to work on there just fine. The issue is I cannot get the colors to show up appropriately. And part of that is because it is missing a property that I would define as .occupied in your style.css. If they would have something called button.occupied, it would make showing colors a lot better. And it would differentiate a lot of things. And I'll show you later on what I mean by that whenever I get into the style.css. But like, basically what I had to do here was I couldn't use the Pac-Man ghosts. I had to use pellets. And I think in some ways the pellets make it better. But what I miss is not being able to see what workspaces are currently active. Wayland is the future of Linux. Everyone will switch one day, even me. And I think that's what everyone else is saying, and that's the realization that I personally came across, was that one day it is going to be the thing that everyone goes to. And it's just a matter of when it's ready for people. Because not everyone is ready for Wayland. I so happen to be ready for Wayland at the moment. Hey, welcome to the chat. Wayland will support pre-2010 PCs. That I do not know. I do not know if they'll be available for them. I would say if you're on something pre-2010s, I would say still stick with X11. And I say that because I know that X11 works. I don't know so much about Wayland, because Wayland is like... I'm trying to think of like a situation in which this makes sense, but think of it like being the latest and greatest package on Arch or whatever, and then you go to Debian and it's like 2 years behind or something like that. Like, that's kind of how like X11 and Wayland is. X11 is like the Debian of I guess compositors. I don't even know if you'd call it a compositor. I don't know what you'd call it, but out of the two, Wayland is like Arch in that way, and then X11 is like Debian, if I had to compare in, like, you know, just working styles, if that makes sense. And then I got Hyprland window here. I was able to set up Cava, and now Cava is this audio spectrum here. this audio visualizer. And I was able to get it working up here through, it's this package from the AUR called, it's like, no, it's not Hyper, no, it's Waybar-Cava is what it is. Okay, here's a question. Couldn't you have your workspace buttons set as dots? Workspace button dot active as the Pac-Man and the workspace button dot hover set as ghost? Dot hover. Yeah, so the only thing that's gonna do is like when you, let me think about this for a second, because I think you could be onto something. So let me show you what I've got going on. I mean, we might as well talk about it now that I was talking about the workspaces here. So this is my section for the workspace buttons. I've got regular buttons here. I've got button.active set here. And then button.urgent set here. Now, if you take a look back at the code, what I have set for active is the Pac-Man symbol. And everything else is just the pellet. Is what I've got for the format dash icons. And what I could possibly do, something that could be interesting. I don't know how well it would work, but I could probably set persistent to be a ghost icon. But like, my issue was not setting up icons. My issue was with the colors, because I've set like button : nth child. This nth child is like, I set 1 through 10 and I set them to different colors. And so that works just fine. The only issue is that if Pac-Man clicks on one of the workspaces, then Pac-Man's color changes from yellow to whatever the nth child is. So it is in confliction with button active and nth child. I don't have anything set for urgent other than the background. Thanks for sticking with us, Felix. Glad you could make it. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. But yeah, that's my dilemma. My dilemma is like trying to, because like I want to be able to show persistent workspaces, but I also want to show the ones that are active. And it seems like the ones that are persistent and the ones that are active, there's not a distinction that could be made in the code unless there's something that I'm missing. But you did give me an idea. You gave me an idea that I could hover over a pellet and I could turn it into a ghost. And that could be pretty cool. I just wonder if I could possibly change the color for that. Because that would be interesting too. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I've got going on in my code there. Oh yeah, like I said, I got Cava going on up there. I'll show you that in a minute. Also Pulse. I am actually using Pipewire. It's a Pipewire Pulse. So it's technically Pipewire and Pulse. I don't really like using ALSA, and I really don't like using Jack. Jack seems like there's nothing compatible with it. And when I first installed Arch, it came with the Jack, like Pipewire Jack, and I had a hard time getting rid of that, but I got rid of it But like, it was a challenge at first. And I don't know. You would definitely be able to define a separate color for button.hover in your CSS. Yeah, but here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if the button.hover, if I could apply it to the nth child as like maybe I could do like button : nth child dot hover or something like that. And then just like turn it into a different color, and then you've got like a different color Pac-Man Ghost. Because like, essentially what I wanted to do was, my idea came all the way back from Awesome WM. Because Awesome WM allowed me to have different colored ghosts, and then I could just go to whatever ghost I wanted to go to, and Pac-Man would be yellow. And the switching would be seamless. And it doesn't seem like I can do that as well here. But I think doing the hover bit, I think, is going to be a nice touch-up. I think it could be. It's something I would definitely have to play around with. I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in watching, because it's like continuously I would have to restart Waybar and stuff like that, and I'm not quite done yet, but I could like do something with it after I get done discussing the Waybar configuration. No, there isn't a way to define separate colors for each workspace button normally. Yeah, and see, that was my dilemma, was I couldn't figure out how to do that. Like, I was able to have different colors for the workspaces. I just wasn't able to have like the same color be applied to Pac-Man itself. So like yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, because like at some point I want to show it off, but I don't think the workspace is ready yet. I think there needs to be more thought put into how I want to go about it. But yeah, my custom weather, on click, it opens up weather.com in a new tab. The exec, which is like basically you're executing a command for the weather. I set up a Python script, and the Python script will read off the weather icon. It'll tell you the degrees it is outside, and it'll tell you the description of the weather. So like right now it's clear sky, for example. I got it to do that for the weather, but I did that. That was one of the modules that I brought along from Awesome WM. Tooltip was set to false. Interval was set to 600 seconds. Same thing for YouTube. The exec was like this Python script that tells me how many subscribers I've got. And I set up a little goal. And my goal right now is to hit 100 subscribers. So you can do stuff like that in the Python file. I set the tooltip to false and the interval to 600. I set up an image for the app icon because I like having my logo represented. So it's basically my logo. You click on the logo and it brings up Rofi, like so. Set the size to I guess 20. I don't know what size it would need to be now that I made the changes, but I think it's fine the way it is. Oh yeah, on click, you got Rofi, and then tooltip is false. The power icon. So here's an interesting thing about how the custom stuff works. So when you want to execute a command, it shows the command first before the format alt. Like, you can't set a format and then have a executable command in your format alt. So by default, if I was to click on this, it shows what my uptime is. My uptime is 21 hours, 23 minutes. But I can click on that to hide it to where it looks like a power button. And so I did uptime-p for the exact, and then I piped that into awk, in which I printed off uptime. And this uptime, I had to do a lot of configuration to the pipe that I was doing, where I would set like uppercase letters and have to substitute strings and stuff like that. So that way the H would be capitalized and the M would be capitalized and the S, well, the D would be capitalized, the H would be capitalized, and the M would be capitalized. Because I like for my stuff to be capitalized for the first letter if I'm gonna do something like that. So that's what that command does. But I wish that there was a way that I could just show this format alt first, and then I could do the executable on click or something like that. But if I right click, it'll take me to wlogout. The tooltip is set to false, the interval is set to every 1 second. The updates icon. I have an icon up here that tells me, actually, let me read this for a second. You don't use a running Windows manager like Skippy, if you know. No, I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean exactly. I'm guessing you were probably going for that ability to toggle, but there is an update module as a part of Waybar. Really? Yeah, what I was wanting to do was like, I wanted to have the power icon to show first before I showed the uptime. And the only way that I could get the uptime to update was like doing the interval. So that's what I did for it. And because I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to do that with the formatting, and it just wasn't working. But there is an update module as part of the Waybar. Nice. I'll have to look into it. Try to figure out how to go about that. The updates icon. It's kind of similar to the power icon, where like the format alt is like this icon, and then for the executable, I do check updates, and then I pipe that into word count -L for the list, and then I awk that to give me a number. So if I click on it, it tells me I have 101 updates. It's been almost a week since I've updated, so it's about time for me to update again. But yeah, on right click, I've got it to set kitty hold, and then I use yay to update my packages. Tooltip is set to false, interval is 600 seconds, which 600 seconds would be 10 minutes. What I mean is, if you have a program to switch between your open windows, even when they are in other workspaces. All right, let me think about what. Sorry, let me think about what you just said there for a second. So if you have a program to switch between your open windows, even when they are in other workspaces. I mean, I guess. Even when they are in other workspaces. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I'm not sure how to... Oh, like Rofi show window? Yeah, I do have that. Yeah, sorry. I'm blanking out. It's my Alt Tab. If I Alt Tab, it tells me everything that's running. And then like I can select whatever window I want to go to. But yeah, Hyprland window, format I set to title. Tooltip I don't know why I set that to true. We'll set that to false and I'll reset it later. No, it's okay. You know, it happens. Separate outputs I set to true. Icon I set to true, and icon size I set to 20. But I think the icons are good to go as far as size. Let me think for a minute. I was trying to remember what separate outputs was for. It's slipping my mind at the moment because I've been working with a lot of code lately, and there's like some stuff I'm bound to forget what it was exactly. Separate outputs. I know I set it to true though. Oh yeah, the workspaces. I set active only set to false. All outputs set to true. Format is icon. Disabled scroll is true. And this is where I was talking about earlier that like you could on scroll up, then you do workspace E+1, and on scroll down you do workspace E-1. This is kind of like the code here, except this says mouse down and mouse up. Mouse down, mouse up. So let me see what this does. Mouse up, mouse down. Huh. That's a little weird. Because like on scroll up it's +1, scroll down is -1. And then this is the opposite here, but it does the same thing. Let me see if that's in my windows here. Up scroll, scroll up workspaces, scroll down, down spaces. Yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I mean, it works as it's supposed to. So, format icons. I showed this earlier. Got the pellets here. Got the active here. I commented out persistent workspaces because, like I said earlier, I was trying to figure out a way around how I wanted to go about doing things. So I may enable that back. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Cava. So my Cava config was not working so well with it, so I just turned it off. I set the frame rate to 60, auto sense to 1, sensitivity to 2, bars to 5. The lower cut frequency was at 20, higher cut frequency was at 20,000. The method is pipewire, source is auto, which means that auto would be taking from my speakers. So like, for example, because I can hear myself speak, you can see the waves going on in the middle here. And then you can also see the music as well whenever it's playing. Stereo was set to false. I like mine on mono. Reverse is false. Bar delimiter is set to 0. Monster cat is true, and waves is set to true because I want waves and I want it to look a lot like Monster Cats. Noise reduction is at 0.77. That's the default. Input delay is 1 because I want it to delay it every 1 second, I think. Format icons are these bars here, and that's how it's able to do Cava. But I used Waybar-Cava because that's going to give you your Cava. If not, you're going to have to build from source, and when you build from source, you're going to have to specify in the make file that you want dcava enabled. And when I did it though, it didn't seem to work all that well. But yeah, we ain't got too much more for the JSON-C. The tray, the icon size is 20. The spacing is 0, tooltip is false. The clock time zone is America, New York. Tooltip is the calendar. So like if I hover over it, it shows me the calendar. I still don't know how to do the formatting for that because it's like it's not aligned properly. And I don't know how to make it aligned properly. But I've got to work with that at some point. But this is the format for my clock and my calendar. And then the interval is set to 1, so that way it updates every 1 second because I'm showing seconds. The CPU format shows the usage. Tooltip is set to false. Interval is set to 1. Memory shows the percentage that I've used. The tooltip is false. Interval is set to 1. The disk, I put in that I wanted to show the percentage used, but there's like different variables that you could use in this. But I just so happen to use percentage used. And then the tooltip false. Interval is 1. I set my network to a specific interface that I have, and this is the interface that it's using. The format Wi-Fi is this icon. Then you got the Ethernet icon. And if it's disconnected, it shows this icon. And then the format alt. So if I hover over it, it shows the bandwidth down and the bandwidth up. And if you click on it, it also shows the bandwidth down and the bandwidth up. So I hide it on this monitor, but I show it on my other monitor. Tooltip is false. Interval is set to 1. And Pulse Audio is the only one that, because I don't think that there's a Pipewire module. So I went with the next best, especially since I've got like Pipewire-Pulse. I just went with Pulse Audio because that was the second best thing that I've got. And it seems to work all right. The scroll step, it goes down every 1%. Even though it's commented out, it's by default. The format is the icon, and then the your volume icon, and then your microphone icon. And if you hover over it, it shows you the percentage. And if you click on it, it also shows the percentages. And then there's one if it's muted. And on right click, it takes you to PAVU control. Or PAVU. I think it's PAVU control is what they call it. And so now we have come to the style.css. So I have Open Dyslexic Nerd Font as my font family. In the end, it's Polybar, but not Polybar. Yeah, pretty much. Like it does remind me a lot of Polybar. I remember when I tried Polybar back in the day, it must have been about, I don't know, probably, I want to say either a year or two ago. I want to say it's been 2 years, but definitely a year or two. I used Polybar, and that thing just kept not working for me. Like, it would crash on me. It wouldn't load properly, and I just had a rough time with it. So that was when I went to something else. And I think what I went with, because I was on Qtile for a while. This was before I actually used Polybar before I used Qtile. Yeah, a lot of people they have success with it. But like I said, it's been like a year or two. I could go back to it and it probably worked just fine. In fact, a lot of what I show in my videos can actually be replicated in Polybar, like the YouTube subscriber count. I actually got inspiration from Mac on how to do the YouTube subscriber count, but like you could easily do that in Polybar because I've seen it happen. But like there's a lot of stuff that you could do with Polybar, and one good thing about Polybar is it's like Waybar in the sense that Polybar works on multiple window managers, so you could easily just switch out your bars and use the same config file for your window managers if you happen to switch to a different window manager. The font size was set to 16, and it was set to 16 because of how long this bar is here. This is a pretty long text, although I could set how long it takes up the space, but I mean, I've got dead space here and I've got dead space here. So like I have room to take up sometimes. So like if it turns out to be longer or shorter or whatever, like it really doesn't matter to me. Like I can make it work. The Waybar itself, I set the background's opacity to 0 because I wanted it transparent, so that way I could get this effect going on here. The border bottom I set to 0 as well because I didn't want to see the border. The color was set to white. The transition property is background color. Transition duration is 0.5 seconds. Not really sure what the transition stuff does. Not entirely sure. Waybar hidden. Opacity is 0.2. Again, I'm not sure what situation I would be in for that. Oh yeah, I think it was already commented out, but it was commented out the waybar.empty and the waybar.solo. And then buttons. So the buttons for the workspaces. The button is the regular button here that that you just see here whenever you click on it or whatever. Then you got button.active, which is the Pac-Man button. That's your active one. A button urgent, it will light up in the background that it's red if there's something that needs my attention. But the button overall, set the backgrounds to black and then the color to white for the buttons. And I've got this commented out, but I could color each and every label. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could do 1 through 6 and show the different colors if I wanted to. But like I said, the only problem is that the colors conflict with each other. So like Pac-Man would turn into different colors once he ate the ghosts. And now that I think about it, is that really such a bad thing? If I was to let, if I was to have like Pac-Man eat the ghost and then Pac-Man turns into a different color as a result of eating the ghost. Like I've thought about that. But then again, I can't show off a different color for when the workspace is occupied. So that's a situation that I'm running into as well. It's like I can't make the color show for something different when there's something going on in the thing. And then I set up all of these spaces here so that way we could do our proper formatting. Like custom weather, custom YouTube, image app icon, custom updates icon. And then I went all the way down like network, clock, CPU, memory, disk, pulse audio, Kava, tray, window, workspaces. And then I started getting to work on all of these. So workspaces. Background is set to black. The color is set to white. The border top is at 2 pixels solid. And that's the interesting thing about CSS that I just thought about. It doesn't have to be a solid color, or it doesn't have to be solid. It could be a dotted line. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but I may go with dotted eventually. That is something I could do if I wanted to. The margin is set to 0. I don't know what the modules here do, but there's a modules left and a modules right. I guess it just has to do with margins for the modules. But I set my margins where did I set my margins? I think it was my config file here. Where, yeah, I set the margin to 5, so I don't have to worry about that in the style. Oh yeah, custom weather. So the way that I normally do this is that background set to black, color is white. That's going to be the same thing every time. What's not going to be the same is this border dash radius. So this border dash radius, this is the top left and the bottom left corners. So I set the top left to 20 and the bottom left to 20, while I left this at 0 and this at 0. This is top right and bottom right. And then I set the border top to 2, border and bottom to 2, border left to 2, and then border right to 0. Because I don't want a double border here, and that's what it's going to give me. So I don't put a border there for the weather. And pretty much the same goes for YouTube, except for the border radius is gone because I don't need it. And I've got the top, bottom, left, and right at 2 pixels solid and white. The image app icon is similar to the weather one. There's nothing different about it. The power icon is similar to the app icon, except it's taken the top right and the bottom right numbers. And the border left would be 0 instead of 2. And the border right would be 2 instead of 0. And then I just go through and like the up. Oh, yeah, it would help if I wasn't muted either. Yes, it crashed. It crashed big time. And I'm just trying to figure out if everything still works okay. I can't believe it crashed on me. But it's still streaming. Oh, wow. Yeah, it is back. Okay. Good. Oh my god. Oh, why did it crash? Now I gotta figure out why it crashed. Like here's the thing, my audio is still, like my audio got messed up or something as well. So let me fix that real quick. I thought I was over the crashing. I know, but it seems like it happens with me all the time. This is why I didn't want to use the flat pack. Although I've got a new problem with the flat pack. The flat pack, here's the problem I have with the flat pack. So the flat pack version of OBS, it doesn't save my information anymore. Like, I exit out of OBS, and when I open OBS again, it asks me to log into my YouTube account and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Oh, but that was a good save though. I just don't know why it would crash. What distro am I using? I'm using Arch. Yeah, so I'm pretty much on my own, unless unless I get help from somebody. I'm pretty much on my own. I don't, like, that's the thing too. I don't, like, help is appreciated. I don't expect people to help me because I do like fixing my own stuff, but it does go a long way if I do have help in fixing stuff. But I was having such a good stream. This is the reason why I wanted to do this video today. I wanted to do this video today because in case it decided to crash, I didn't want to do anything too important. And I didn't view this as being too important. I used the normal package of OBS. Why the flat pack? So I kept getting here's the thing. I kept getting recommended to use the flat pack version of OBS because at the time I wasn't able to get Wayland working, and people are like, oh, well, why don't you just switch to flat pack? Why don't you go to flat pack? Hey, Zipix, there's flat pack. Why don't you go to flat pack? I'm like, you could take your flat packs and you can shove them where the sun don't shine. But in all seriousness, I kept getting recommended using flat pack, and I don't really like using flat pack. And flat pack, the only reason I use flat pack at this point is for live captions, because the creator of live captions recently got their stuff updated. So once they get it updated on the AUR, I'll eventually use the AUR package. But until then, I've got to use the flat pack because it's pretty much only available in the flat pack. And I don't just want to build from source, because here's the thing about building from source. It means that I have to consciously remember to update the packages every time. And I want the AUR to help with that, because otherwise I'll forget and never update it. And that's going to be a sad day. But yeah, that's why I was using, or that's why I had tried out the flat pack. I am using Titan 652, and I was using it for the custom browser docs, but after using this stream today, I've realized that I don't need the Titan OBS. So what I could do is I could just downgrade to the regular OBS and see how that works out for the next stream. The Titan 652 was supposed to have the for the let me think for a second. With Titan, it had the custom browser docs, and I no longer need the custom browser docs, so it's irrelevant. But even then, I can't get the custom browser docs to work in Wayland. That was one of the reasons why I didn't want to move to Wayland at first, was because I couldn't get the custom browser docs to work. But now that I can see my YouTube chat just fine and my live control room stuff, it's fine. No need to knock Arch. Yeah, I'm not knocking Arch today. Keyword being today. But yeah, I use Arch. I use Arch, by the way. I'm running it now. Zen kernel, though. Although I do use a separate PC running OBS under Windows because it just works. Okay. All right. So everybody uses Arch here. Nice. Yeah, I'll try not to shit on Arch too much. I've been known to do that lately. I just, I love using Arch. For me, it is perfect because it is for the tinkerer, and I am a tinkerer at heart. I always tell people that. Like, I appreciate Arch. I just, I don't like some of the, behaviors that I see with Arch users. But I also understand that that's not every Arch user. So there's that. But yeah, here's the thing. I was pretty much done anyway with showing the config file, because like everything was pretty much repetitive and I would just be repeating a bunch of stuff. But like, you set all of your modules here, and then you specify your modules down below, So maybe I need to try the Zen kernel. Is that what you're saying? Or what do you think it might be? Because I don't know why it could possibly be crashing on me. Or it could just be that I need to downgrade to like the regular OBS. Like go and get the one from the regular repositories or something. Especially if I don't need the Titan 652 version anymore. Because I know that when I was using that, I wasn't having any issues with streaming. I don't think. But yeah, I had this problem in Ubuntu. Ubuntu, it would crash unexpectedly, and like never knew why, but it did. And it could just be an audio issue, because I did hear where my audio froze temporarily. I've had much more stability running Zen kernels, and I have multiple systems on it. Okay. I'll have to check out that Zen kernel then. In fact, let me make a note of it. There we go. Sorry for malformed responses. I have company too. Nah, you're good. You're fine. I appreciate that you're here with us today. It's been making live streaming a great thing. I'm glad you're all able to make it. Normal kernel, Zen kernel. So far, the only thing that I know about it is stability. But I also hear that it's great for some gamers, like if you use like There's like specific kernels you can use for like certain things that you want to do. Thank you, Crossroads. I appreciate that very much. But yeah. Yeah, I don't exactly know what to do about it. It's just something that I'm gonna have to like research and see what it is. I hope it doesn't interfere with like the NVIDIA stuff that I had to do to it. Do I play? I have been known to play video games. I just don't do it as often. I think the last video game that I played was Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES. And I did that on stream at one point. I just, at the time, I decided to redo it later on. So I deleted the VODs for it. But I do a lot of retro gaming. I also have some Steam games. I used to play a lot of Fortnite back in the day as well. I don't play, I haven't touched Fortnite in probably, like seriously touched it in probably a year, maybe. Like it's been that long. Is Waylon ready for gaming? How do I answer this? I have not tested things from Steam, and I have not tested things from GeForce Now, because GeForce Now would be the only other thing that I use besides Steam to play video games. I would say that it is ready for retro gaming. Retro gaming is good for it. I've played multiple NES games. And yeah, I think it's ready for that. Your NVIDIA drivers should not be affected by switching kernels, and you'll still have access to the stock if you don't remove it. Oh yeah, then that means I gotta do research on how to switch kernels then, because I would think, this is just my opinion, but I would think that it would be good to have backups, like backup of in case one kernel isn't working, you may want to go back to the original kernel. I think that's the way it goes, because I think DT runs 2 kernels, or he runs 1 kernel but has one as a backup, I think. Wow, he runs Arch at that age? That's crazy. But listen, I was in computers when I was like 8 or 9 myself, so I get that. Like the first time I ever touched a computer was probably when I was like 6, but all of I started gaining more experience when I was 9. So he's running it with Plasma 6, Waylon, and all of his Steam games run great. Nice. I bet you installed it for him. I mean, I don't know, man. The kids these days, they can definitely do some damage when it comes to computers. They know how to do stuff. Yeah, so oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, so you're basically the tech guy that everyone goes to. See, I'm that way in my house. Like, everyone who needs tech stuff, they usually come to me to like do stuff for them and fix stuff for them when it comes to computers and stuff. But yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll put it back on this window now. This pretty looking window. You can see all the fishies. You can see what the cow says. I pulled all this up together last night. I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have some stuff to show on my next videos? Like, instead of just the audio spectrum, now that I can do the centered stuff, I'm like, you know, thinking about that. When are you streaming next? I'm not entirely sure when I'm streaming next. It might be sometime during the middle of the week or the end of the week or something like that. I know it's going to be at least a couple to the next few days. And that's probably going to be a stream in which I install Arch the legit way. I install Arch and then I install stuff like the bootloader and the splash screen and stuff like that. Oh, there's a C Matrix fork. I didn't know that. Nice. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I plan on streaming like when I do stream, I do plan on doing like an Arch install, but I gotta know that like if something's not gonna crash on me again. I gotta figure that out. I gotta figure out how to deal with that. Oh yeah. There's something I should let you know about display managers in Wayland. Or at least with Hyprland. They are not officially supported. So here's my experience when it comes to the display managers. I was only able to get LightDM to work. I got it to work with WebGreeter, with Neon. But the issue that I had was when I logged back out, I couldn't log back in. So I would have to do a reboot of my computer. So even though LightDM technically works, I wouldn't use it because of that reason. Because you only get like one chance to like log out and log back in. They say that GDM and SDDM work. I could not get SDDM to work. And GDM requires you to install the GNOME desktop. And I'm not doing that. Definitely not doing that. Let's see. It reminds me that I have to install some fonts. Yeah, how do you guys install your fonts? Because I usually do like the .local/share/fonts or whatever that path is. I do it in my .local area, like my .files in other words. But like there's some fonts that you need to, like I understand you have to like do it globally for your computer. But it makes it easier if you just put it in your .files. Then that way you can transfer the files whenever. But yeah, I would definitely like going back to the display managers, I would just use the TTY. Makes things easier. Gotcha. Yes, I used to install them with the Yay. I didn't, or I've started not to do that just simply because there's like a lot of fonts that I use that I have to download anyway, like for projects that I'm working on. You use NixOS as your main machine? I have met about 2 or 3 people now who use NixOS. I have never used NixOS, but I hear mixed reviews about it. Like it's good, but then I hear it's also that it's complicated. Things just work there. Learning curve is rather... Yeah, that learning curve, I think, is what it is. Gotcha. Yeah, it's not an end user system. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else that I'm leaving out about the Hyprland stuff. Oh yeah, I would imagine. That's the case. I don't know, Crossroads, have you ever used Hyprland? Like, what are some things that maybe I've missed out on? Nice. Double Waybars? Yeah, you can do double Waybars, I suppose. I mean, I have a Waybar. I have like one Waybar on my left monitor and then one Waybar on my right monitor, and it seems to do completely different things. But yeah, you can do that. Like especially if you load it up twice. you can load up a Waybar more than once and have 2 Waybars going on. I wouldn't do that. I mean, I've done it before, but that was by accident. Because I was more of like trying to get it to load properly. Oh, wow. Top and bottom? That's crazy. How? Just even how? And like, why? But then how? I'm gonna loop in a minute on that. It's like, how, but why? Why, but how? What do you use at the beginning when you switch to Linux for the first time? All right, so the first time I ever switched to Linux, I used Pop! OS. And Pop! OS, here's the thing about a learning curve. You realize that that you've got to make sure that all of your data is saved before you start playing around with other environments. And I was not being cautious because I thought I was dual booting because I wanted to dual boot it at first. I thought I was dual booting, and it ended up that I erased everything off my disk and I did not save any of it. And I started freaking out because I had lost like a decade's worth of work. And then I eventually got over it. I have some ridiculous CSS animations that would offend most. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with CSS. I'm still trying to think of ways I can do things with the Waybar in CSS. But yeah, as far as Pop! OS was the first thing I ever went to. Then I went to Ubuntu. I didn't like Ubuntu. I tried out Garuda for a little while. I didn't really like Garuda either. And eventually I stopped using, I think I used Manjaro for like maybe 2 hours. And then I was like, no, it's not for me. And then I want to say it was last year I tried Arch for the first time. And I really enjoyed it. But I was afraid that there was going to be a time in which I wasn't going to have internet. So I wanted to move to something else that was going to be like more stable. And so I took a break from Arch and I went to Debian for like 6 months. And I loved my time with Debian. But recently I had to switch from Debian to Arch. But out of the two, out of a bunch of distros, I would always recommend Debian or Arch to people. Unless they're beginners, and in which case I'd recommend Linux Mint. But I ran Debian for like 6 months, and I really liked it. But the problem was I needed to upgrade my OBS because I thought that I needed my custom browser docs, and I wasn't getting the latest and greatest from software. And so I decided that I would go and build it from source. Well, I built it from source. And the issue that I had with building it from source was, everything worked just fine. But I was also told that I shouldn't mix new software with Debian stable. Because it was steady trying to downgrade me, and I didn't want it to downgrade me. So it was like this section that I was reading where it was like, go back, or don't break Debian. And so what I did was I tried to upgrade to SID. Well, I upgraded to SID. And everything was going good until I started hitting some rough spots, and I got those taken care of. But then it came down to two dependencies that required each other, and I couldn't resolve it. So I stopped using Debian because at the time I was needing a updated OBS. And so I went to Arch. And because Arch had exactly what I needed, I knew it did. I just didn't want... I didn't want the inevitability, but I knew it was coming. So, you know, here I am. And, I mean, I'm still dealing with problems with OBS, but, you know, I can eventually take care of that. Don't make mistake I did when I switched to Hyprland/Waybar. It only supports the GTK CSS subset, so really advanced stuff doesn't even work. I was knocking myself against the wall so much trying to understand why things weren't working. And you know, that may be the reason why I can't get things to work on my end with the Pac-Man stuff, is because that is at such a at like face value sort of coding. Because like I've thought about certain things that I could do. Like I could do like dotted lines for the Waybar. I'm not sure if I want to go through with that though. Yeah, what I would really like to do is I would like to submit a request to have like a dot occupied or something like that for that. We're just taking a little break here, trying to figure out what else we can talk about since we got all the other stuff worked out. Eventually, I plan on making videos about how to do certain things with Hyprland and how to do things with the Waybar. Eventually, I do want to do that. I just wanted to do a video today that was like showing like all the stuff that I've got it to do and how much similar it looks to my awesome WM layout. We'll do it. I mean, the worst that can happen is that it just gets rejected. I mean, true. Yeah. Is Sway a good replacement for i3 if I switch to Wayland? Okay, so for what I remember about Sway, the reason I left Sway, because I did like Sway, and I think I tried Sway before I tried Awesome WM. Sway was good to me, that I can remember. I don't know how much of a good replacement it would be for i3 because I've never used i3. But I would say it does a pretty good job of being a window manager. But I used Sway and had a good experience with it. The only issue came down to the same issue that I've been having with Wayland. And that was I couldn't screen share properly. And I didn't know how to fix it. And the only way that I have fixed it as of right now has to be something dealing with NVIDIA and the kernels, and probably something to do with the portals. That's the only thing that I can think of that has allowed me to do screen capture and window capture through Pipewire, because I finally got it working the way that it should. But yeah, I think it is a good replacement nonetheless. The new 555 driver. I believe I am. If not, it's gonna be in this update. in this update here that has like 103 updates. But I think I've got it. I don't know yet. I'd have to check it out. You're gonna wait another 2 to 3 years? Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like I feel like people put pressure on people to use Wayland right now, and you know, unless you just have that need or that desire to go to Wayland, like, you know, don't go to Wayland. Like, you don't have to right now. I don't see it. Like, coming from someone who is on Wayland, like, if you don't have a need to, I would stick with X11, because I remember my time when I was on Awesome WM, and I'm like, I cannot live without Awesome WM. And yeah, I hit that moment where I was like, I can't live without it, and I didn't go to Wayland for a long time. But it was my curiosity that got the best of me, and I think it's in a good way, because it has shown me a lot of good stuff about Wayland that I can do. And eventually I plan to make a follow-up video about why I switched to Wayland, because my old video about it, like, all my issues got resolved pretty much. The NVIDIA driver. Yes, the NVIDIA driver, I'm on 555, yes. But like I said, when it came to Sway at the time, which this must have been like, I switched to Awesome WM a month ago. It was like over a month ago. It was like whenever I started my YouTube channel is when I was on Awesome. And because before that I was on Sway. And I was on Sway for almost a week at that point, because I didn't want to be on GNOME anymore, and I wanted to be on a window manager again. But I was wanting to be on Wayland because I really liked Wayland. But like I said, it's not for everybody. I think it's great for stability if you want to stick with X11, because that's where all the other window managers are. The only way to really know how good something is if you try it out for yourself. I mean, you can watch people do it all day long, but if you're not getting your hands dirty in it, it's not going to be as much of a experience, in my opinion, because you're going to be relying on other people. The second best thing you can do if you don't want to do that is to just like watch other people's YouTube videos. And I think you did a good thing today by like watching the stream, so that way you could check out Hyprland and check out everything that it was about it. I could explain some things from my perspective, and I think it was something that just happened to work out today for you. Like, I hope you learned something from it. Being someone who has seen X11 since the 80s. Oh, the 80s. Wow. Wayland needs to happen. I forget the name of the YouTuber, but they should have called it X12 or XNet or XNext. So many niche legacy applications that just apply and need to be updated. People are generally resistant to change. Yeah, I would agree with that. People definitely do not like change. I think change can be good, though. It really just depends on you and how you deal with change. Like, there's some things I don't do well with change, but then there's other things that I'm like embracing it, and technology is something that I embrace when it comes to new stuff. Okay, what are we doing with the connection? There we go. Wanted to dip out for a second. Yeah, sometimes I also have internet connection issues. Everyone has connection issues. I have Fios and Xfinity and still have issues. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. Yeah, I never really thought about it that way, but like, yeah, I guess a lot of people do have issues with that. My issue seems to be mostly with streaming, because like what'll happen is that I'll start streaming, kind of like I'm doing right now, and the bitrate will start to go down and it'll drop the connection. And I don't know what's causing the drop in the connection. I never know. I think it's because they think I'm streaming and they like want to cap it or something like that. But that's just my guess. I don't actually know for sure. I really like this ASCII aquarium. It's a nice little touch. Yeah, this stream has been really nice, I will say. When it comes to that. I stream at like 1080p. It's like 60 FPS, and it's like I usually use 4,000 for my bytes per second. Or I think it's like kilobytes per second or something like that. Anyway, it's set to 4,000. Yeah, it is in kilobytes per second. I just saw it now. But like last stream that I did, I was playing Super Mario Brothers 3. And it ended up, it was doing it like every 2 minutes. It would just cut out. It would like cut out just long enough to disconnect and then cut back in to reconnect. But it is good to know that my resolution and my frame rate's doing good. Yeah, thank you. I am into retro gaming. My all-time favorite game is Felix the Cat for the NES. But yeah, I also like Super Mario Brothers 3. I like Krusty's Funhouse. That's also a nice puzzle game. Solomon's Key is a really good puzzle game. I'll have to. In fact, when I start running out of things to do on stream, I may just resort to just gaming on stream again. Because like that's what I had done the last 2 streams, was I was doing some retro gaming, and I felt like the VODs weren't good enough, so I deleted them. So I'm eventually going to come back to Super Mario Brothers 3 at some point. But yeah, you know, it's just fun for me. Like I use a game genie for like infinite lives and stuff like that, because the last thing I want to do is have to restart from the beginning, like all the way from the beginning on an NES game. But like I just do it for fun. You know, I don't take it too seriously. Oh, the Ultima series games, yeah. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I'm trying to think of some other games that I've played that were good. I think Mega Man's really good. I remember I played it on Steam because I had the Mega Man Legacy Pack or whatever. And I remember beating all 6 of them. I had to have a guide to tell me which ones to go to first. But like once I had that guide and everything, like things were great for playing Mega Man. But like I remember I binged on Mega Man because I really wanted to beat him. And I think I really liked the first one simply because there's like this there's this glitch that happens whenever you hit the pause button. It kills them multiple times if you just keep hitting it. That was a great thing in Mega Man 1. My biggest complaint about gaming these days is the anti-cheat. I have to keep a NVMe drive just to boot into Windows for my Destiny addiction. Yeah, I had that problem when I was playing Fortnite. Fortnite is one of those games that is never going to be on Linux until, and it's like something would have to change. Something would have to drastically change for them to bring Fortnite to Linux. But like until that day happens, like their anti-cheat and stuff, it makes it very difficult. And yeah, I've done dual booting before. I don't like the idea of dual booting. If I want to play Fortnite, I'll just play it through GeForce Now. And every time I say GeForce Now, people either laugh at it or they're just like a straight up no to playing it on GeForce Now. But I think it is a legit alternative if you really don't want to go to Windows. And that is the case for me. I just don't want to have to go back to Windows, especially with that new stuff with recall. I mean, I had problems with Windows before, but that thing with recall, it takes the cake for me. And I've debated on doing a video about recall. I lost the file on accident once I had recorded it. And to me, that was just a sign that I should have never done that video. So I basically said I wasn't going to cover it in a video. But I'll talk about it here if people want me to talk about it. But like I started to do it and then I just ended up not doing it because there's, you know how like there's some videos where it's like it's just right for you to go ahead and start doing a video on it. And then there's some videos where it's like maybe it's not worth doing it, and I decided it wasn't worth doing it in the end. Well, Windows level anti-cheat is kernel level, which really bothers me. Recall is some scary stuff. I mean, I really don't mind a lot of privacy level things. Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing about the anti-cheat was like, all that Fortnite has to do is allow for the Linux kernels. And if they wanted to, they could specify what kernel they wanted to go to. And the issue is that they won't ever do it because they make up all these bogus excuses of why they can't just have it on Linux. But they could easily switch it. Recall is one of those things where I see the potential in it. Like, it's no different than with live captions. Live captions are something that I see as potential. And thankfully, here's how this differs with Linux. Because in Linux, you can have live captions, and you can choose to not opt in to saving everything to a file, like to saving all of the information that goes through it to a file. I uncheck that all the time. Every time I install it on a new system, that's where I go to first. The settings, I go and I untick it. And I don't have a problem there. But it's like with Windows, I don't know if they record or not, but I also wouldn't be surprised. But with Recall, they are just... It's like, I see the potential. It's no different than with the live captions. I see the potential in it. But I also see the potential to do more harm than it does good. And there's many case scenarios. And none of the case scenarios matter. Because what matters is whether or not someone gets that PC. It doesn't matter how they get to it. It's just the fact that if they get to it and something happens. That's what scares me about wanting to use Windows again. Even though it's only compatible with certain Windows PCs right now. Like, that is something that would scare me in the future. Is like, that would just be one more setting that I have to go and turn off every single time I load a new Windows or whatever. I didn't touch Windows for 3 years. I didn't play online games anyway. It's been... Let's see, the last time I touched Windows, other than for work and dealing with family computers. Last time I touched one seriously at my house was probably 6 months ago. Yeah, I think it was like 6 months ago. I've hit that point where I'm not wanting to go back. I use MS Edge on Linux mostly because at this stage of my life, you don't give a fuck, and the targeted sales is actually useful to me. Hey, listen, if it works for you, you know, don't knock it. That is the one thing I tell people, that first of all, I'm not going to sit here and criticize someone for using, for example, Microsoft Edge. Listen, if it works for you and your workflow, go with it. Like, it doesn't matter what other people think or whatever they want to tell you. Like, you do you. And that's something that I don't plan to change about myself. Because, like, eBuzz, for example, he uses Microsoft Edge. I personally... Oh, yeah, in that video. Oh, I personally use Firefox. And that video that I made recently... My God. That has been like a... It has become my most viewed video. It is the most controversial video that I have ever done, it seems like. And I thought my RTFM video was bad. Like, I've taken a look at the like to dislike ratio on my Firefox video. That is insane in the membrane type of deal. There's people that just straight up do not like Firefox. And I have hit like a number of people that they have expressed how they feel about that. Just, you know, and I'm being very nice about this too, because like there's some people that just don't get it. Like they don't get that the video was like made in response to DistroTube. But like I look back at some of the comments and I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about this. Firefox sells your info as well. Not familiar with your video, but everyone does it. If you're connected, your information is free reign. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see it. Like, what? I mean, that was like one of my main arguments was like, what doesn't track you these days? Or like, what doesn't get your information these days? Like, there's always going to be something out there that does that. And like, particularly with internet browsers, that there's no exception in that. Unless you wanted to use something like GNOME Epiphany. And in which case I would seriously like that is a browser I would tell someone to like I would tell them to reconsider using something else, because there's going to be a lot of things that are incompatible with websites that they're trying to access with Epiphany. But I like the way that Epiphany looks, which is why I got the GNOME theme on my Firefox. But yeah, my video was a response to DistroTube, and people, they thought that like, they thought I took my sweet time in telling people like, is Firefox really dead? But like, the whole point was not to say whether or not it was actually dead. It was more of like trying to respond to DistroTube's video. But eventually in the video, I did come to say that no, it wasn't dead. And I said that like the forks would keep it alive and stuff like that. So there's like your TLDR. Because like DistroTube decided he would come on and he would, as some people have put it, shill for Brave. And he wanted to say that like things like what was that one thing? Oh yeah, it was about market share. I couldn't understand why he made such a big deal about the market share, because Linux is at 4% and Brave is at 1%. So like, why is he making? Why is that a talking point for him? That like Firefox is at 2 to 3%, and it got me to wondering if he's talking about that because they used to be at a higher number. And if that is the case, well then, I mean, fine, but I don't agree with that point, simply because the market share for other things, you know, they're in the same boat in my eyes. I used Brave and Vivaldi mostly for integrated ad blocker. Yeah, I have heard about the integrated stuff, and that's the thing too. Like, I actually heard someone say they use Vivaldi. I heard someone say that they use Vivaldi for workspaces. There's like a specific tab feature that you can get, that I guess it's like you can put tabs side by side or something like that. Brave I've heard people using Brave for security reasons. I personally would not use Brave. I was very vocal about that, actually. I basically I said that the only people that would be interested in Brave would be like ones that are interested in free and open source software. Well, not just software, but like free and open source in general. And then I also criticized Brave for its crypto stuff. I felt like that was bloat, that was unnecessary. But then again, I guess all bloat is unnecessary. Yeah, I use uBlock as well. It definitely helps. But, you know, it is what it is. Like, if it works, like that's the thing I was saying earlier. If something works for you, don't knock it. Like, if it works for you, keep using it. Because, like, not everything is made for everyone. Oh, Vivaldi has the nice tile features. That could be what I'm referring to then. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that I think while privacy is an issue that should be taken into consideration, I don't think it is a driving force for me. Like privacy is important, yes. I don't have as much focus on it when it comes to browsers. Because I know and I understand some realities of using web browsers. But even on a web browser, I do everything that I can to make sure that I'm protected and that my privacy is secure and all that good stuff. I do take measures in that. Let's see. I used to have OPNs since, and OpenBSD doubled on my home network, but it was way too much trouble to keep up with updating the minis. Links. What is Links exactly? I don't think I think I might have heard of it before. It does sound familiar. Oh, that's why I've heard of it. I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know, like, I kind of view it, I don't know, here's my stance about certain things with the terminal, for example. I think that there are some things that are great. using the terminal. And there are some things that I think would be better suited for a GUI. GIMP is a good reason to use a GUI. I would not want to do any editing using the terminal. Some things that are actually useful for me was Ranger was a good one. What else did I do in the terminal? Vim is sometimes good. I don't know. My brain just went to like network management, but network management is something I'd rather do in a GUI. I think that was one of the other reasons why I essentially left window managers to begin with, was because I didn't want it to be so much keyboard centric, but I'm back in a stage in my life in which I don't really care as much about that. Like, I'm fine with stuff having keyboard integration and stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of how I am. I use Ranger. I like using Ranger for certain things in the terminal. Like if I'm trying to get access to like a system file, or if I want to see thumbnails of files that I'm working on or whatever, like I'll look at it. Getting involved in social media is more detrimental for people's lives and especially professional aspirations than anything else. And that I would agree with. Yeah, at this point, I mean, as far as social media goes for me, like when it comes to Zippix, for example, I have a Twitter, I have a Discord, I have a GitHub. I think that's about it. I don't have a whole lot of social media for that. I do have, or I'm working on getting stuff on Odyssey at some point. I want to get all of my videos on Odyssey at some point, but I gotta hit 100 subscribers first. So I'm not too far away from that. Yeah, I mean, it seems that like kids these days, they just don't really understand what could possibly happen, like by having social media accounts. Like, you have to think about everything you say and do on the internet, pretty much. What do I think about YouTube Shorts? I think depending on the content, YouTube Shorts is great. I have 2 YouTube Shorts. One was like the very early stages of my Pac-Man like tag list. It was like a very early stage that I recorded. The other one was I don't even remember what the other one was for. Now that I think. Oh yeah, I know what it was. The other one was on Fast Fetch. I was answering a comment, and I think that's what YouTube Shorts is really good for. Is like if you have a comment that you think can help out other people, using YouTube Shorts is a great way to do that. Because you can answer the question really fast. and not have any issues. Yeah, so Odyssey is a free and open source video sharing site. Well, video sharing. It's basically, it's like YouTube, but it's free and open source. And a lot of people are on there. Well, not a lot of people, but like a lot of the people on YouTube who do Linux content are on there. And I hear they get some success with it. I'm kind of like wanting to have it, but then also not wanting to have it, because I want as little social media accounts as possible. But I also want like like an archive to where like people can go to my videos if YouTube is down for some reason or if something happens. I'll still have the videos there. But yeah, I guess now would be a good time to let people know I do have social media. It is down in the description. If you have Discord is a great way to get in touch with me. You can join my server, and I'm also willing to help out people if they need help with their code. Just whatever. Also have Twitter, which they call X now. I don't really use it too much, but I'm still on it. But those are like 2 ways to get up with me offline. Or like when I'm not on YouTube is what I mean. Just doing some stretches here. You guys ever do any stretching or any exercising? Mostly what I do is stretching. Because I've been at this a while. I'm trying to think of what else is happening in the community lately. Like, I hear that as far as like Wayland goes, people are waiting for that update in like June or July or something like that. I do. Again, I'm not trying to keep you. I've been in and out. Oh, no, you're fine. You're good to go. No, I appreciate the conversation. Like, I don't mind at all. I like being able to have conversations with people on here. Luke Smith. Where is he? Where's Luke? It's kind of like, where's Waldo? I don't know, man. I think the last time he did a video, he said he was somewhere. I don't know where he said, but like, he ain't here. Like, I guess he's just doing his own thing. I mean, whatever works for him. Like, people eventually do move on. I wonder if he just thought that he had made like enough content or something. But like, then again, he didn't exactly let people know where, or like that he was not gonna be around anymore. Like, I don't feel like it was a proper goodbye, if it was one. Oh, nice. You're waiting for the new NixOS and FreeBSD releases? Yeah, I'm always up for like trying out distributions. I'm always thinking about what the next distro is going to be for me to review. The last one I did was on Manjaro. And pretty soon, it's getting to a point in which I am not going to be uploading nearly as much as I have been. I know that day's coming. But I've been trying to upload like at least once a day. But yeah, that'll be good. As far as the releases go. That'll give me, oh, you know what I'm actually looking forward to? I'm looking forward to Pop! OS with their new update, whenever that's coming out. I want to see what they've done with Cosmic. I am excited for that. Oh, let's see. I'd recommend Ghost BSD just because it's a great entry-level introduction to the other side. Yeah, I don't know the first thing about BSD. But at least I know about Ghost BSD now. Oh, it's available in the AUR now? Sick. Sick. Yeah, I just don't know if I want to test it right now. I think I want to wait until they officially come out with it, because then I can, because like, here's what I like to do. I like to get the distributions as a live environment and just stick it on a virtual environment so that I don't have to install it. Because like, I don't want to do a full installation. I just want to do a, I just want to look through the environment and see what's new and stuff like that. Because, like, I'm trying to do a review. I don't want to do a full install. I don't know if you guys just heard that. That's my chair, though. It's just... It sounds like a wreck or something. Need some WD-40. One of the things that annoys me about System 76, at least as far as their HW is concerned, their hardware is concerned, is that I heard their BIOS updates require Windows. And the AM5 socket is only good for another year or two? No! Why would they do that? Bro, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't know how much I would like that either. Okay, OP Facts. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm glad you can make it. The stream's gonna end soon anyways, so I'm glad you was able to make it. I appreciate the support, and I shall see you later. But yeah, I might give this about another 5 or 10 minutes. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, give it about another 5 minutes. I'm just trying to think of if I've got any... Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, actually, I think I can go ahead and just end the stream now, because I was trying to think of any thing I might want to say about Hyprland or Waybar, but I think the conversation is like way too late for that. But I really did enjoy the conversations. Look into the new Ryzen 4004 processors too. Okay, I'll definitely take a look into that. Alright, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and go now. And thank you all for watching, as always. And I shall see you guys later.